Hello, everybody. My name is Branson Brooks, a contributor for the DC Voice, and I have the pleasure of talking with Thaddeus Bradley Lewis, a chairman of Advisory Neighborhood Commission 3A, representing McLean Gardens and Capitol Heights. Thank you so much for coming through the chat with me, Chairman Bradley Lewis.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And kind of just to get into things, because I know, as we talked about, you had a prior interview with the DC Voice talking with Kachi. So kind of just to reflect on the last time you spoke with the DC Voice, what pressing issues were addressed throughout this past term, and what new issue do you foresee? Also, with this being a newly stood up commission, how has initial procedures been so far?
We started out in 2023. That's when the commission came into existence following the redistricting that happened in 2022. So every 10 years, they redraw the boundaries based on the census because each commission area is supposed to have a number of commissioners. Each commissioner represents what we call a single member district, and each single member district is supposed to represent somewhere between roughly 1,900 and 2,100 people. So every 10 years, following the census, they redraw those lines, to make sure that each single member district is appropriately represented and that each commission is kind of the right size. So in this case, when they redistricted, they decided to create a whole new commission area. So we're 3A. The other commission areas, 3B, 3C, 3D, 3E, and so on, they've existed for a very long time. 3A is kind of peculiar because you'd think, well, how could there not have been a 3A this whole time? And the explanation there is that 3A, the original 3A, when DC first gained home rule, the first 3A area covered Georgetown because Georgetown used to be part of Ward 3 as opposed to Ward 2. But not that long after home rule started, they redrew the boundaries and Georgetown became part of Ward 2, so 3A ceased to exist at that point. So for many, many, many years, because that was like early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, there was no 3EA until we were created. And so we got started in 2023. There was a lot of work, a lot of effort that went into, getting things rolling, setting up processes, getting a bank account, doing all kinds of administrative stuff, also kind of figuring out how we were going to connect with the community and find out what matters to our constituents. So we really tried to hit the ground running, and I think we did a really good job of it. And now we're in our second term. So the first term was from January of 2023 to December of 2024, and our new term has just begun this past January. So we're again experiencing a lot of change because we had a decent amount of turnover from the previous term to the new term. We had three new commissioners. So 3A altogether has five commissioners, and three of the five are newly elected. So a lot to learn. We've got a new treasurer. We're working to get them up to speed, and the other commissioners. Uh, Really exciting time. Two of our commissioners are relatively recent graduates of the American University. So I'm glad to see that, some younger people are getting involved at like the lowest possible sort of civic level, hyper local representation. That's what ANCs are all about. So it's pretty cool that there are some young people who are getting involved early on that side. So I'm really excited about where we're at right now as a commission. In terms of issues that are really important and issues that we've worked on a lot in the past year or so, a lot of it has had to do with traffic and pedestrian safety. So we've had for the entirety of our existence, uh, again, not going back very far to January 2023, but in that time, we've had a lot of concern about especially pedestrian safety issues. There's been a lot of new development In my single member district, we had one new development open immediately north of McLean Gardens called City Ridge, where DC's first Wegmans is located. So that had 700 units of residential open up in it, along with the Wegmans and some restaurants and things like that, an Equinox gym. So that opened up. And then north of that, another development opened up in the past year called Upton Place. And that was another roughly 700 units, a One Life Fitness gym, and a Lidl grocery store opened up in that development. So we've had a lot of development, which means a lot more people coming to the area. A lot of people drive in this area, so it's a lot of vehicle traffic. And, the area wasn't really originally, I think, conceived of as a place where you would have a lot of drivers kind of passing through. And for that reason, the pedestrian sort of infrastructure, to keep people safe walking on the streets isn't really there. So we've worked really hard to try to advance the community's concerns about that, to try to get the Department of Transportation, DDOT, to invest more time and effort into implementing traffic and pedestrian safety measures to improve that situation. And it's, I think, unfortunately, only going to become more pressing in the near future because right along the eastern border of my single member district is the Sidwell Friends School. And in the next few years, they currently have their upper school located at that campus here in the district, in our commission area. But their lower school has been located out in Bethesda. They, a number of years ago, acquired the former Washington Home property. It was like a nursing home facility, and they acquired it and they're currently renovating it. They've gutted it. They're doing a lot of construction over there. And ultimately, I think in 2026, they intend to bring the lower school onto the DC campus. So they're going to close the Bethesda campus, which will almost certainly mean a lot more traffic, parents bringing their kids to school. So I think it's going to be a situation where we'll continue to need to press for these traffic and pedestrian safety improvements.
Okay. That I would just say there was a lot of great interesting tidbits. I feel like I didn't know, especially about Georgetown, in terms of the award switching. You guys kind of now being in the place of Georgetown, with that being such a prominent city in DC. In terms of traffic, I mean, traffic is already crazy in DC. So I mean, adding even more people obviously is going to make something that has to be handled. So those were some great tidbits to be added. And I guess a question to lean off that: do you guys feel as though any type of way, or I guess a special feeling to kind of be the new commission area kind of in place, Georgetown, or is this something that it is at this point?
I mean, so one thing that's really important to us is ensuring that we are engaging with the community, that people know that we're here and we're ready to, hear about their concerns and connect them with other parts of the district government, so that, they're not just left sitting there wondering, I've got this problem, who do I talk to get it resolved? It's always a bit of a struggle. We have a lot of people, or we have a group of people who are super dedicated to coming to our meetings, finding out what's going on. But there are a lot of people who are not really aware of what the ANC is doing. So one of the things that we're working on right now, we recently started a contract with a company that provides citizen engagement software. So it's a company called Go Vocal, and they're an international company that provides software to municipalities all around the world to help them reach people. Sort of they create, or they help, communities or government organizations create like projects where they can engage specifically on certain issues. So for instance, um, ANC 3D, which represents the area of Ward 3 over by like the Palisades, they used not the exact same software, but software from a similar company in order to create surveys and a platform for engagement on WMATA's Better Bus initiative. So over the past few years, WMATA has been working on reconfiguring our bus routes and changing kind of how they serve the district. And so they solicited a lot of feedback. They put out plans and things like that. So ANC 3D, using the software, created a platform so that they could really, survey and get as much specific information as they could about what was important to their constituents in terms of how they use the bus system. So that's an example of how you can use it, and it's something that we're really keen on doing because we love having, the people who know how to find us. We love engaging with them, but we want to engage with as many people as possible, in the commission area. So having a new tool to work on that, I think is going to be really, really meaningful for us. And it's a very important time to do it. Like I said, we have a lot of existing concerns about traffic and pedestrian safety that I think it would be beneficial to engage using this type of software on because, we make appeals to DDOT, to the Department of Transportation. We pass resolutions. They know what we're saying. But I think if we can use, this kind of a platform to demonstrate that it's not just us, it's actually a lot of people in the community. Not just, the select few who show up to the meetings, but a lot of the people who don't have the time to show up to our meetings, who care about these same things. So if we can use this platform to sort of bring that data together, bring that information together so that we can present it to the district government, I think it could be really, really powerful in creating the change that our community is looking for.
Okay, and I know being that it's nice you guys are being able to leverage the recent rise of IT and software and kind of use it to help and benefit the citizens and kind of with one of the main things they need, kind of getting from and around to the places they need to go in DC. So that's nice you guys are able to leverage the software to kind of benefit the citizens throughout DC.
Absolutely. No, it's really important for that. There are also some potentially kind of monumental changes that could come to the area. So as as I think a lot of people are aware, there's a lot going on right now with federal buildings and property changing hands. RFK, was transferred to the district through an act of Congress, and the GSA has presented plans to sell or transfer a lot more property across the district to either the district itself or to private owners, through an auction or a sale. And one of the properties that has been highlighted for such a process is the DHS uh, Nebraska Avenue complex. So there's this complex that's been used by DHS for the past number of years. It's immediately east of the American University campus, and it's within our commission area. DHS has been using the site less and less. It's large, like 30-ish acres. So like a pretty sizable property, and a lot could be done with it. A lot of things that a lot of people have opinions about. A lot of strong opinions, I think it's safe to say. We need housing in this ward. We need more school capacity. So if and when things get moving with that, we want to make sure that our community has an opportunity to give voice to how they want that space to be used if we have the opportunity, to weigh in on how it will be utilized by the community. So that is something that's really big. Unfortunately, there's a lot of question marks about what the White House will do, what the administration will do, and when will it do it, how will it do it. So we can't really go to the community and say, hey, here's the timeline right now. But we are really, really keen on ensuring that if given the opportunity to contribute, there, that we have the tools to engage with the community so that we can make sure that they can give voice to how they want that space to be used.
Yeah. Yeah. And with new developments in communities, I know with the people who are reside in those communities and really see it every day, they obviously want to have the input of what is put there. I mean, if they're able to, they don't want to just show up one day and wonder how that got there or anything like that.
Absolutely.
So yes, that
Yep.
makes a lot of sense. So for that kind of led into my next question to ask. I feel like we kind of got into the housing and development of things that go into Ward 3 in the Commission 3A. So just talking about housing, I know you talked in the last interview about one of the biggest needs being to facilitate housing. So in
Mhm.
terms of helping single family households and find missing middle units, how have you been able to kind of recently fill those needs?
Yeah, so I think we've had a lot of growth there. So the developments, the two new developments that have opened up, City Ridge and Upton Place, they definitely provide capacity to a lot of people, because we're looking at, one, two, three-bedroom units. So I think that's really valuable. That is something that we definitely need. We need the spaces where young people and small families can come to find a way to live in this area. So I think both of those developments have been really helpful in terms of pursuing those goals. I will say, unfortunately, they don't necessarily contribute a lot to affordable housing, which is something that we continue to really, really need, especially in Ward 3. So there's still a lot of opportunity for that. And I hope that as sort of the Wisconsin Avenue corridor continues to develop, that not only will there be more housing in its entirety, but that there will also be more affordable housing. There's a lot of development that's also happening right now, not necessarily in our commission area, but somewhat to our north, in Friendship Heights. We're also seeing, you mentioned missing middle. We're seeing a little bit of that as well. There's a development that's currently undergoing construction in our commission area, where they're building like almost as large as like 3 and 4 unit, um, sort of condos slash row houses. It's sort of a mixed kind of use concept. So I'm really excited to see what that looks like when it's completed. Uh, that'll be great. And like I said, if there's a chance for the Nebraska Avenue complex to turn into a site for future housing, that would really be big, very big. I mean, 30 acres is a lot. It's a lot of space. So there's a lot of opportunity there. And I hope that it serves a lot of those needs.
Yes, and with a space that big, I know you can probably use it for a couple of different kind of things. Even a couple, I know even in DC, they use houses and units like that to do the whole different businesses, not just one. So it could definitely benefit a lot of different areas, I would assume.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes. So kind of just talking about, you touched on the demographic of the people you're trying to meet in these housing areas. So kind of, if you could, can you speak on how your ANC has been able to foster a community that appeals to both the young demographic and senior citizens?
Yeah, so one of the things that's always been really important to me from the very beginning, especially as we were sort of coming out of the pandemic, where a lot of ANCs, if not actually probably all of the ANCs, were meeting virtually, we wanted to always facilitate, to the best of our ability, hybrid meetings. It's something that's really important to me. I've always wanted to make it as easy as possible for people to participate, as they would like to participate. I don't want anybody who doesn't feel comfortable going out to a meeting, uh, not being able to do so. Or for anybody who wants to participate in person, I want to give them the opportunity to do that as well, so that they can communicate with us in that way. So I'm glad to say that, in the entirety of our existence, almost all of our meetings have been hybrid. We've utilized the technology that we have. We've utilized, the lessons that we learned through the pandemic to ensure that we have optimal access to what we're doing. And I think that's really key, especially, for the demographics that you listed, for seniors who may have mobility challenges that would keep them, from coming out to a meeting at night. Uh, they have that virtual access. Same thing for young people. If, they're students and they've got, difficult schedules that preclude them from being able to go to a physical meeting, then we have that opportunity. We record all of our meetings, so, everybody can go back and watch them if they're unable to make it when they occur. That's also something that I've always wanted to ensure is there to really, optimize that access across demographics.
Yes, and it's kind of like I know, I mean, we have kind of got comfortable in this online era, but I mean, it still is used for those things where people can have that quick access to important things like ANC meetings. So it's glad you've been, it's good you guys have been able to leverage that online hybrid kind of way of going for both demographics, senior citizens and younger people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I kind of wanted for my next question to touch on your other role at Synergetics. I know you're a chief operating officer at the company, and as well, I obviously it probably deals with operation, company proceeds and things of that sort. So, how
Mhm.
have you kind of been able to leverage your experience working for the organization in your role as a ANC chair, which you kind of having to operate I guess, a commission area in this other role?
Yeah, no, it's been really valuable. There's been a lot of like crossover in terms of, learning lessons as a chair of an advisory neighborhood commission and learning lessons as a chief operating officer. It's been a definitely a two-way street. As chair, you got to work with a lot of people. You got to cross a lot, you got to, bridge a lot of divides. You got to be comfortable, making connections, reaching out, following up with people, seeing things through to completion. You just got to do it, right? Because you're serving your constituents. You can't really take a day off necessarily, or just say, you know what, I'm just not gonna listen to that constituent because I don't feel like it. No, you've got to do it. It's part of our oath of office. We got to serve the district and we got to do what's in the district's best interest. So, utilizing that experience has been very helpful in terms of allowing me to succeed as a chief operating officer at Synergetics. It's also really been useful. So at Synergetics, we do LED lighting retrofits for commercial properties. And what that means is we go into spaces like warehouses, office buildings, government buildings, retail, and we look for old lighting, fluorescent, metal halide, uh, lights that eat up a lot of energy, don't work that well. You have to replace them a lot. And we replace them with LED lights, which are energy efficient and they save you lots of money because not only are you using less energy, but you don't have to replace them nearly as often. And that work, a lot of the benefit to doing that is part and parcel with what government entities are doing and the utilities are doing to incentivize reducing energy use to further, a lot of our climate related goals. So working in that space and learning a lot about what that looks like has taught me a lot, just sort of generally, about how different municipalities outside of the district, Maryland, Virginia, and other states, and counties within each of those states, how they're trying to, accomplish these goals towards reducing energy use. It's taught me a lot, and it's a lot of information that I try to use for the benefit of the district and what I'm doing in the ANC. Learning about, okay, how well does this work? What does it do? Is it truly, when you have incentives, for instance, to replace your lighting, are the incentives working? Are people using them? Uh, Learning that kind of information outside of the district, I think is really beneficial for being able to speak to what works best within the district.
Okay, so you've been able to leverage kind of that information that you got that you've been able to use in the organizational role and kind of use that for the district. So
Absolutely.
yes, and just to speak on touch on the LED lights, I guess I never really thought of that as like a home ownership or a whole building type of thing. You know, I usually just for myself or for people I know, they use it for their house, kind of just to do different colorful lights, but I didn't know what impact it could have on the whole community.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you look at the commercial side of things, being able to reduce your energy use for every single light in an office building where the lights might be on, 10 hours a day, or more, you're talking about a lot of energy. So when you can, reduce that energy by half
Yeah.
from light to light in an entire office building or in a large warehouse, you're talking about like really sizable reductions.
Yes, and it seems like it would make a big of enough of a difference to really show in kind of the cost of things as well. So
Absolutely. Yeah, no. Unfortunately, the cost of energy shows no signs of going down anytime soon, whether that be for residents or businesses. So, it's really prudent to try to find all the ways you can to reduce your use to offset the increase in rates that we've seen.
okay, okay, and that's a very innovative way to kind of tackle that. So kudos to you and Synergix and the work you guys been able to do so far.
Thank you. No, it is great. It's a great business to be in. It's really rewarding, to be able to walk into a space and not only be able to show you, like, hey, look at this, your energy bill is going to go down, but also your space is just going to look a lot better, right?
Yeah,
Like you said, in with like residential lights, you can do lots of things with like color and things like that. It's the same, with lighting in the commercial space. It gives property owners and, restaurant owners and office building owners a lot more flexibility, so that, the people who are using the office space, the people who are sitting in your restaurant, can really appreciate a little bit of that fine tuning, that you haven't really been able to get in the past with your fluorescent lights and your CFLs, things like that.
kind of just a I guess streamline lights or mainstream lights. They kind of a different version of those that you can kind of do more with less energy. So that makes a lot of sense. So for my kind of just to get right into my kind of closing out question, I wanted to ask, how is your commission area ensuring the needs of all citizens that are represented in your district, and how do you feel like you guys can improve that or keep going with that in the future?
Yeah, so I think that's where the citizen engagement software that I talked about is really, really key, is finding new ways to get to the constituents that we haven't been able to reach in the past or haven't been able to like reach them on a consistent basis, right? We not only want to use those tools in addition to what we already do, to ensure that they know what we're doing, but we also want to use it to find out what's really important to them, so that we can hear not only their opinions about what we think are important, but just do we have any blind spots, right? Are there issues that are affecting parts of our community that we just haven't, really been able to see? There are lots of reasons why people have a hard time, being able to come to us, right? There can be financial reasons that limit the time and the bandwidth that they have, to go to an ANC meeting or, read something that we posted on our website. There are lots of other reasons, why they might not have that capability. So we really want to get out to them and trying to to the best of our ability make sure that if there's something that's affecting them, and maybe they hadn't thought, I think a lot of people don't necessarily think, oh, maybe this hyper-local entity, the ANC, might be able to help me with this issue, right? Because to even conceive of that, requires a certain level of bandwidth. You've got to have time and you've got to have the wherewithal, to know or to say, hey, I've tried this, I've tried that, I've tried that, and the ANC is one of those options. A lot of people don't have that. So we want to reach them and make it as easy as possible for them to be able to tell us, hey, this is something that matters a lot to me, or hey, this thing that you're working on, maybe you haven't heard this opinion on that before, but here's a reason why it's really important. And it might be an opinion that a lot of other people have, but they just don't have the time to come to you and give that opinion to you. So I'm really hopeful that this is an engagement software will help us do that. Another thing, like I said before, we've got a couple of new commissioners who are quite a bit younger, and I'm hopeful that different perspectives within the commission will potentially help us open up to, different demographics and different populations within our community. Uh,
Okay, so it just sounds like just getting those, is this about getting those different, as many various or differentiate perspectives with the people throughout the commission area or the citizen throughout the commission area, right? As well as the new commissioners who will kind of be helping answer these citizen questions and kind of go moving forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm really excited about it, and you know, it's a new time, which is always exciting. Unfortunately, across the district, it's a pretty scary time right now. There are a lot of, overarching issues that are affecting a lot of people in our community. So we want to be really responsive to that. We want to be proactive in reaching people and assuring them that we are here to help connect them with the parts of their district government that might be able to assist in however which way it might be able to assist.
Yeah, yes, and that's good. Like you've relayed through this interview that you're kind of trying to streamline that connection for the citizens to kind of be able to talk to you and kind of talk, do those questions or have those questions. They kind of talk with the other citizens in the neighborhood and just say, why can't we get this solved? And this might be a way that they can kind of take a step forward again. Some of their concerns solved.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes. And so that was some great answer to my question. I really appreciate you relaying all the information that you did about your commission area. And I thank you so much for speaking with me and the DC Voice listeners, Mr. Bradley Lewis. And to all the viewers tuning in, I look forward to catching you next time.
Been my pleasure. Thank you so much.